Welcome to a special International Women's Day event co-sponsored by the PEI Business Women's Association and Atlantic Business Magazine. My name is Margaret Magner and I'm CEO of PEIBWA. We're delighted you could join us today to celebrate International Women's Day, to hear the announcement of the top 25 women in business in Atlantic Canada with a special emphasis on PEI, and to hear from all the island's award winners who will be participating in a panel discussion this afternoon on what it means to be powerful women. Before we start, I would like to recognize the Honorable Jamie Fox, Minister of Fisheries and Communities, also the Honorable Catherine Colbeck, Chancellor of the University of Prince Edward Island, former Premier of Prince Edward Island, and a retired senator representing our province, PEIBWA Board President Nancy Beth Guptill, Board Treasurer Julie Murphy, and members at large Eliane Salguero and Carol Rubin, Jane Ledwell, Executive Director of the PEI Council on the Status of Women, and Cathy Rose, Chairperson of the Advisory Council, Sweta Debu, Executive Director of the PEI Coalition for Women in Government, Janine Wooldridge, Executive Director of ULNUE. And I would also like to mention that Janine was recognized last year in 2021 as one of the most powerful women in Atlantic Canada by Atlantic Business Magazine, and it's terrific to have her here today as well. Also, Dawn Wilson, representing the Interministerial Women's Secretariat, Martina McDonald from CBDC, PEI East, Tanya Prisk, Executive Director of the Center for Women in Business in Nova Scotia, and all of you, a wonderful group of exceptional people in the arts community, municipal officers, provincial government officials, entrepreneurs, funders, chambers of commerce, the CBDC, and so many more. And I'm honored to be with you all today. International Women's Day is a global celebration of the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. It also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. Every year on March 8th, groups come together worldwide to celebrate women's achievements or rally for women's equality. I am mindful myself that when my grandmothers Helen Hogan and Margaret Papert were born, women did not have the right to vote, and that was not so very long ago. This year's theme is Break the Bias. Imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias, celebrate women's achievements, and raise awareness against bias, and take action for equality. That theme has inspired us to partner with Atlantic Business Magazine today. Each year, the magazine recognizes the 25 most powerful women in business in Atlantic Canada. Dawn Chafe, executive editor of the magazine, is joining us today to announce the award recipients for Prince Edward Island. After her announcement, all of PEI's most powerful women will participate in a panel discussion to talk about what it means to be powerful women and to respond to your questions and your comments during the Q&A that will follow. We're looking forward to hearing your perspectives. It's a real pleasure to have Dawn Chafe here with us today. I know it's been a very busy day for her, and she's been busy congratulating women all over Atlantic Canada, so we're thrilled that she's here with us for our event. Dawn is the co-owner of the magazine, Atlantic Business Magazine, and she's been executive editor there since 1998. Her name is synonymous with the best of business reporting, and Dawn is recognized as a champion of Atlantic Canada. So we're very pleased to welcome Dawn Chafe today and hear what she has to share with us.
Wow, well, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Can I hire you? You're going to be my personal self-esteem builder. I appreciate it so much, and I particularly appreciate being there with you in this space. We had really hoped to do an in-person event there in Prince Edward Island, a luncheon today, but we just ran out of staff people to do it with, COVID regulations being what they were. But thanks to the power of technology and PEIBWA, we're able to reach out to you this way. So thank you so much. One of the things that I talked about with Margaret beforehand was what I wanted to talk about today, which was where did the Most Powerful Women Awards come from? And so to go into that, I'm going to take you back actually to January 2016. So this has been a long time coming. In January 2016, myself and my editorial team were really busy. We were planning our March edition, and we were saluting entrepreneurs. We were looking for stories of entrepreneurs to showcase throughout Atlantic Canada, people who had really sort of bucked all the odds to be successful, and so had failed and come back, and just really dug deep and had different and diverse entrepreneurial success stories. So we sent out calls for expression of interest on social media, saying, these are the types of people we were looking for. I spoke to writers and freelance contributors from across Atlantic Canada. We had dozens of submissions, dozens of people to sift through, to come up with. We were really, really proud of the group we put together. We've picked 5 of the most impressive stories, and we decided that we would share them with the world. And so I'm going to share with you in just a second the cover of that issue, and you are going to immediately see the mistake that we made. So here it is. I'm almost ashamed to show you, but here we go. Now, anybody else spotting the mistake that we made in this particular issue? Which I will say was published on International Women's Day.
No.
Cathy, I could see the face and I don't blame you. As a woman, as a business editor, I can't believe I was so gender blind. I've been so focused on the stories that I completely overlooked the diversity component. And so I had a tremendous amount of social media feedback from people telling me basically what was I thinking and how could I have done this. And they were absolutely right, because it was not something, I can't believe I didn't even see this. The minute we got the advanced copies from the printer and they came in my office, I was like, I'm in trouble. And I was, rightfully so. So to make it up to people, what we decided to do was the following January, we were going to do an all women's issue. I'll show you that cover. We had approximately, I think it's 67 women on this cover. And we not only did an issue that was all about women in business, that specifically interviewed with only women in business, but we made a pledge that at that point that we were going to normalize the idea of having women in every single issue of the magazine. And yes, that is something we tell our writers, that where you have the option, you have to include voices of diversity. So whether that's gender or race or age, we want different voices. So on the surface, that's a really, really good thing to strive for. There isn't, however, an issue inherent in all of that. And that issue, excuse me for 1 second here. So the issue with having that dedicated space available for women entrepreneurs is that there aren't enough women in authority in companies. So when we from the media approach a company and we're trying to do an interview, there's not enough women in the C-suite. And who is usually the spokesperson for a company? It's the person in the C-suite. And so we recognize that even though we have this pledge and we have made that commitment and we make every effort to include women as much as we can in our magazine, that isn't always possible just because the spokesperson for the organization is not a woman. And so that was something that was really in the back of our minds, was bothering us a lot. So as we approached this year, I started this last year with the most powerful women. So fast forward to January of 2021, and I sent out the most innocuous tweet you can imagine. And it just said, whose name would you put on a list of most powerful women in Atlantic Canada? I had no pictures with this tweet. I had nothing else. That was just, whose name would you put? I copied the same message. I put it on Facebook. I put it on LinkedIn. Within the course of a week and a half, I had over 20,000 submissions. 20,000 suggestions of powerful women across Atlantic Canada. And so they formed our first cohort of Atlantic Canada's 25 most powerful. So why 25? Well, we kind of like the number. It was manageable, even though, we had 20,000 names to consider. 25 women was something we could profile and do well in the magazine. Atlantic Canada, because of course we are Atlantic Canada's business magazine and have been for the past 33 years, always growing and sharing the stories and voices of Atlantic Canadians. So proud to do that, and we pledge to do that, more of that going forward. So why did we come up with an actual award for women specifically? And it comes back to the whole idea of why we couldn't normalize the voices and the faces and the pictures of women in the magazine, is that even though 82% of all women in Canada between the ages of 24 and 54 are in the workforce, only 15% of women are in the C-suite and are CEOs of companies. Now, does that mean women aren't powerful? Not by a long shot. Women are powerful. And so this is what we said, we're not going to be limited by the idea that women aren't CEOs, because that's happening. That's more and more it's happening. But we're not going to be limited by the fact that they aren't yet the spokespeople. And so we created this awards program specifically to recognize women who are powerful, not just even within the context of their own companies or their own jobs, but who have reach and influence outside their organizations and across their industries. They're change makers. They are making things happen. And so this has become, for me, the most exciting issue that we have for the entire year. So yes, it's a busy day, but oh my gosh, it's like Christmas too. I'm so happy to be sharing these stories with all of our readers here today. So in just a minute, I'm going to announce who the 4 PEI award winners are among this year's 25 most powerful women in business in Atlantic Canada. But before I do that, I want to show you the award itself. This is our first year giving out the actual award, and I'm not sure how well you can see it. But as you'll note, the award pictures a figure with one hand upraised in celebration and the other hand reaching out in a gesture of collaboration. Because that is the hallmark of the women award winners, is not that it's power that you keep and insulate in yourself, but it's about using that power and influence to uplift others. So proud to have you in the magazine this year. So without further ado, moving on, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again, to this year's most powerful award winners. So I should start by saying that the award winners are chosen based on nominations that we receive on our website. So if you have not yet nominated a woman for a Most Powerful Woman in Business Award, please do. We would love to see more Prince Edward Island women nominated for this and for any other awards programs that we're doing. So our first of this year's award winners, just going to move this over to the side. And all right, our first award recipient from Prince Edward Island is building ties and opening economic opportunities between Atlantic Canada and China. She is the CEO of Study Abroad Canada, the co-owner of Sunrise Group, and has been involved in bringing 2 of Prince Edward Island's most recognizable exports to China. And I'm talking here specifically of Anne of Green Gables and Cow's Ice Cream. So congratulations, Sherry Huang. Our next award recipient is Martie Murphy. Martie is the co-owner of DP Murphy, and she is a giant in Prince Edward Island's hospitality and food service sectors, operating dozens of coffee franchises along with restaurants, hotels, and a furniture store. She and her husband, Danny, are generous supporters of numerous community organizations, along with operating a subsidized children's day camp. Well done, Martie Murphy. Congratulations as well to Cathy Rose. Cathy is the owner and operator of Rose Dental Lab, Sea Spray PEI Vacation Rentals, and PEI Business Advisory Services. A longtime advocate for small business, she has advised not 1, but 2 federal task forces. She has worked with the Council of People with Disabilities, UPEI, CBDC, and Abegweit First Nation. She co-founded the organization that is hosting today's event, and she just started a 3-year term as chair of the Provincial Advisory Council on the Status of Women. Congratulations, Cathy Rose, powerhouse. Our fourth recipient, I think that face looks very familiar. Our final award recipient is a transplanted Ontarian who worked in Los Angeles and New York before falling in love with Prince Edward Island. She teaches at UPEI, runs her own communications company, is a governor of the National Theatre School of Canada, and a sector champion for Renew PEI, the Premier's Council for Recovery and Growth. She is, of course, none other than the CEO of the PEI Business Women's Association, Margaret Magner. So congratulations to all of the award winners. I am so proud to feature you in our magazine and share your stories with our readers. Thanks as well to PEIBWA for facilitating the award presentation and of course the panel discussion to come. And of course, not least at all, your continued advocacy for women in business, not just on International Business Day, but throughout the year. We are truly honored Atlantic Business Magazine is to have been a part of your event. Thank you.
And thank you, Dawn. It is a great pleasure to partner with Atlantic Business Magazine this year and to celebrate powerful women in business. When we heard about, the women from the island who were being recognized, we thought, what should we do? Well, let's have a conversation. Let's get everybody at the table. Let's hear from them. Let's compare notes. And so that's what we're doing today is celebrating this, talking about what's on our minds and talking with the other wonderful people who are here today to share this with us as well and to get their perspectives. So what we thought was particularly distinctive is that we had 4 award winners from Prince Edward Island. And again, Sherry Huang, Martie Murphy, Cathy Rose, and Margaret Magner. So all 4 of us are here today. And we're really happy to be able to spend the rest of this hour with you and to talk about women in power. How often do we talk about that? Women in power, that's a very interesting concept. And also International Women's Day. So this is a really appropriate day to be having this conversation. So first of all, we're going to have about a 25-minute conversation amongst the 4 of us. And then we're going to open it up for questions and observations from our audience to see what's on your mind and what you have to share with us. And again, as Maureen said earlier, if you could, want to put a question into the chat room as we talk, make sure that you put it with a question mark or a capital letter Q at the beginning so that we can spot your questions more easily. So there's a lot of territory that we can cover in a pretty short period of time. And Dawn has already talked a little bit about who we are and what we've accomplished. But I thought what would be kind of interesting to get started, and we've had conversations amongst ourselves as well, what would be interesting to get started is just to call on each one of us for 1 to 2 minutes, just to talk about, when we started our careers at the beginning of our lives, I think none of us really thought of ourselves as being the most powerful woman, So I'm curious to hear, and you may be as well, what drives us and what has driven us professionally and personally that got you from your beginnings to where you are today. So is there something that defines you that you would like to share with us? So Martie, would you like to start? If you talked about Martie Murphy when you were 20 years old, as opposed to where you are now and what you've accomplished, what drives you?
Yeah, so when I was 20, I was heading to New York to go to design school. That was my dream. And my grandfather passed away, and it was a tough time in my family, and my dad really wanted me to stay. And so he gave me a job at the construction company. So I started there, and that's a very tough industry to cut your teeth with, paving roads and building roads primarily. Anyways, I stepped into that world, and I never looked back. And it was, it was difficult by times, but that was a segue into Wendy's, because obviously construction is 30, 60, 90, 120 days before you get paid, and there's deficiencies. And I said to my dad, there was a Wendy's in Montana at the time, and I said, Dad, we need to get into the food business. We need to get into something that is cash. So it was kind of a business conversation. And I don't know where that came from. I honestly don't. Sitting down in Montana, having a bowl of chili at a Wendy's sparked something inside of me. So I called Wendy's every week for a solid year. I hounded them for a franchise. Picture me, no restaurant experience, no, anything. Anyways, they told me to go away. They stopped calling, and I kept calling. So one day, as luck would have it, the master franchisee in Canada fell away, and they were looking to grow the business. They called me. I drug my dad to the meeting, and he's like, "What are we doing here?" Anyways, so that started the whole thing. That was the catalyst. And I didn't know anything about the restaurant business, but I sure rolled up my sleeves, went to work, and carried on from there. And that's how, honestly, I've grown the company in the West. I think we have like 25, 30 locations, which great opportunity. But it brought me to the East Coast, to my husband, because he was Wendy's. And that's how we met. And then moving into PEI, having 4 kids, continuing to grow and develop the fast food sector, and then segue into hotels and hospitality. And there's so much water that goes under that bridge. And, it was tough because there was a lot of, and still to the day, like looking at franchises, I love franchises, but predominantly you look at the upper level and they're all males, the CEOs are males. And so, it was a different journey, and I got a lot of no's. And when I was trying to get a Tim Hortons franchise, because I wasn't married at the time, they told me no. And I didn't take that for an answer. I kept going, and I ended up with the franchises in Fort McMurray, lost money for 5 years. It was brutal, very hard to get staff, and you just got to put your head down and figure it out. And now those are the highest grossing stores in the world, very successful stores. And, so there's been a lot of things along the road, but I think the most important part today is I don't really see the gender division anymore. I think men, if you talk to successful men or men that are in business, they have doubts too. But I think you just got to live your own path, and you have to be tenacious, and you have to have confidence in your own expertise and where you want to go. And you just don't take no for an answer. So that's kind of how I was tenacious, and I was persistent, and you just don't let anybody take the steam away from you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. That's inspiring.
Thank you.
Cathy Rose, what makes you tick? What brought you from where you were when you were 20 to where you are now as a powerful woman?
Well, 20 was sort of a pivotal year. My sister and I moved back to Prince Edward Island. I was 24, actually, when we started Creative Aesthetics Dental Lab, and started it on a wing and a prayer. Really, we had an old Westphalia van and no money. I won't even say some money, because we had no money, and looked for an opportunity in Prince Edward Island, found a dentist that would support us, got a unit out in the West Royalty Industrial Park, and was able to borrow $4,000 in order to start the business. And 23 years later, we sold the business, but it had a good run. It ran for 23 years, and we sort of cut our teeth. I cut my teeth on, everything from managing staff to, building a building out there. I think I was one of the first females to own land out in the industrial park. And during that 23 years, my value system, or what I believed in, or what I perhaps did without even thinking about it, was I wanted to contribute to others, and I wanted to give back to the community what the community was giving to me and my family. I was a single mom when I started, so that was very tough, and not having any resources. We did start to make money right from the very first year, and we did really well financially. And in that, somewhere in there, I had 2 more children, and there wasn't, Catherine Callback will remember this, her and I were on a panel together looking at maternity benefits for women that were self-employed. But at the time, there was no self-employment for or maternity benefits. So you just basically had your child and off you went. Another thing that I remember was that I was the third president of the Charlottetown Chamber of Commerce. And there's a picture of me pregnant with Jessica. So I was having a baby and president at the same time, and just, you know, really enjoyed being part of Rotary and being part of, we started as Dawn said, I started the PEI Women in Business Association. I just saw a real need for women to become independent financially, which really affects everything. It affects your ability to be able to provide for your family. It affects your self-worth. It affects your ability to, you know, have housing, to feel good about yourself, all of those things. So I guess when I look back on my career, you know, 40 some years ago, right up till today, I think the main thing that I've always focused on is to put a hand back to try and help other women, to show them their worth in any way that I possibly can. And Margaret, you and I talked about this. I struggle with the word powerful, and we will talk about that a little bit later. I struggle with that word. You know, you've got your whole thing around, well, be humble and all of that. But, you know, when I look back and now working at the university and getting my master's was big in my 50s. I had 2 back surgeries and I had a lot of health issues that I had to go through, and divorces and, you know, things that really put you down. And like Marty, you just get back up, you're bleeding a little bit, you dust yourself off and put a Band-Aid on, and you just get back in the ring and you keep on going. And now I have, you know, the privilege of, you know, lots and lots of abundance in my life, great friends, an excellent husband, wonderful children, great stepchildren, and my life is wonderful. And I'm finishing off, finishing off my career as the chair for the Status of Women, but I'm certainly working with some powerful women there and hopefully making a difference in the lives of women. So that's kind of been the thread and the theme that's run through the last, you know, 45 years for me.
Wow. Thank you, Cathy. And thank you for founding the Prince Edward Island Business Women's Association in 1993. And recently serving as a member of our board as well. So,
thank you.
Sherry, let's turn to you. You know, thinking back to where you were when you were 20 years old, or toward the beginning of your career, beginning of your life with all these opportunities ahead of you, you know, what has defined you since? You know, what has generated, you know, your movement forward, what you've accomplished, maybe what you've struggled with? What's what defines Sherry? What do you have to share with us when it comes to that?
Thank you. And first of all, I do want to thank for Atlantic Business Magazine for this recognition and award. And then thank you, Dawn. And it's definitely very encouraging for myself. And I'm deeply honored to receive this among with other most powerful women in the region. So talk about myself. I was around, when you say when I was 20, I'm in Vancouver. I got my education in Vancouver. So I would say when I was a little girl, my first saw Canada through a documentary, I was fall in love with the nature, and I know this is the country I really want to visit. So when I was trying to go somewhere for my university, so I didn't even have adult moment, I said I want to go to Canada. So I ended up in Vancouver and got my education, but I always have a goal, want to have running my own business and being an entrepreneur. I probably around that time, I don't really know what that really meant. But after I graduated, and I know a university degree don't get you into being an entrepreneur and running your own business. And this is the country I don't know enough about. And then I probably didn't know how to run a business in this country, not enough knowledge. So I want to learn. And so I do have a long and short-term goal for myself. And then I want to go somewhere I can really learn the Canadian business culture, etiquette, landscape, and everything. So I I think it's by, how to say, but reason I heard Prince Edward Island is always the name attract me. And I would think how romantic a place is where the prince will want to be, and it's an island. So, and I moved here and find a very good job from a local firm, but they told me they never hired anyone who don't speak, not say don't speak English, but native English is not an English native speaker. So I'm probably the first one they ever hired in the last 30 years they've been established. And so they're brave enough to hire me. So anyway, I have a very good experience working with them and have my mentor and learned a lot, but I always want to run my own company. So it's been a few years, and then because I grew up in an education family and I had international education background myself, so I really have interest in the international education business, and that's how I get into Study Abroad Canada. But around that time, I have to say, is very interesting enough, because around that time I'm not even 30 yet, and then to be running a company, have a whole lot of international students in the education business. A lot of time when I go out for meetings, people will try to look who is coming behind me because they think I'm one of the international students. We're the boss, right? Like, I mean, nobody believe I'm the boss because they said, oh, so you're the one? You're not the student? I'm like, no, I was a student, but not now. But I know around that time, there are a lot of things for me to learn, a lot of things I don't know enough, and which I know, but is actually really encouraged me as my incentive to learn quickly, learn fast, and work very hard to it. And like a kid, like a sponge, to get all the knowledge I could, and being a stronger person inside, and then go for your goal. So it definitely took me a few years to feel comfortable, but I always say, when you don't feel comfortable, it's a time you work very hard because you want to be in the comfort zone. But if you're brave enough, you can always put yourself into an uncomfortable place, and then so that you know when you become comfortable, you're learning, you're being stronger than before. So that's how I driven myself to always put yourself in uncomfortable, get comfortable, and then again, want to be in another uncomfortable zone and keep learning. So along now when I was trying to think how long I have been in Atlantic Canada, I've been moved here for 15, maybe more than 15 years, but I'm still here. I still think Atlantic Canada is the best place I ever stayed, and this is my home. I think this is a place you can start small, but there's unlimited space to grow. That's just my experience.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. I'm just going to briefly chime into just a little bit just about what makes me tick. I like to make things happen. You know, I like to, I'm a matchmaker, really. I like taking a look at, and that's part of my background as a fundraiser too. I like looking at people, this is what you want, this is what you have to offer, this is what you can do over here. How can we put this all together and create something that's a win-win for everybody, that's a success. So I love doing that sort of thing. I've been doing it for years. You know, I think back to when I was 5 years old, not 20, when I was 5 years old. You know, I believe that all of us are given gifts, and I feel driven sometimes just to try to know my gift, you know, to bring it to fruition. I was 5 years old, you know, walking home from school with my first report card ever, and I had all gold stars except for one silver star, which was really annoying me. And I remember saying to somebody who was walking down the street with me, how far can you go when it comes to getting an education? And they said, PhD. So I said, okay, I'm getting a PhD when I was 5. You know, I just kind of set that goal for myself. And, you know, I have reinvented myself in a number of different locations. I had a very very comfortable, secure teaching position in Toronto. And I decided I was too young to die. I needed more of a challenge. And so I've relocated and redefined myself in Los Angeles and New York and Toronto, and now finally here, you know, where it's such a pleasure to work with, Atlantic businesswomen through this organization. I think back sometimes, and as I said, I like running with the ball. I think about myself when people give me an opportunity, and now when I can take opportunities more and more. I see myself once when I was on a plane flying to Cincinnati from California, going to see, the president of Procter and Gamble to ask him to become the president of our corporate advisory board. Thinking of myself, here's this girl from Kitchener, flying from Los Angeles to Cincinnati to talk to the president, and it just seems so unreal to me. But when the challenges come up and you take them and you make things happen, that's what's exciting. That's what's fulfilling, and that's where I come from on this. So other things that, and we've got limited time today, but I want to talk about power, and we've been talking about this already, what your response was like when someone told you that you are most powerful. Did you giggle about it? Did you say something self-deprecating, or did you say, of course? I think women in particular sometimes have a complicated relationship with power. And yes, Cathy, I am very mindful of a conversation we had recently when you shared a quote with me from Marianne Williamson, which has resonated with me. And I don't want to put you on a spot, but do you want to share the quote with us and just say why it's meaningful to you?
Absolutely, Margaret. And I absolutely love this quote. And I've known this quote for a very long time, but for some reason, it's one of those quotes that I leave on my fridge and I read all the time. And it's, again, my response was self-deprecating. Like, why do I deserve to be the most powerful, one of the most powerful women in Atlantic Canada, one of the 25. And, but then and I asked my daughters this too. I said, I'm struggling with this word. Can you help me? And I will share what all three of them said, which made me feel really good, and which was really quite amazing. But the quote is, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We asked ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small doesn't serve the world. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So that's the quote. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
And I can see Maureen Hanley over there giving it a big thumbs up. Maybe we can talk about this some more. So Cathy, why does that resonate with you?
Well, it's one of those things that I guess, and I didn't thank Dawn or the magazine for this honor, and I do want to take a minute to do so. But when you look at the word powerful, it's having force or being physically strong or having influence, and then you can go to a powerful leader. But I really had to sit with it and say to myself, do I see myself as a powerful person or a powerful leader? And I didn't like the connotation of the word powerful. But then when I read this, and then I talked to my middle daughter who has a business, she has 2 or 3 small businesses. She said, she quit very quickly and she said, Mom, what are you talking about? You raised 3 powerful women. So that was one of the quotes that kind of hit me, right? And my youngest daughter, and again, I'm just going to quote this, I hope you don't mind, but it's words that, that mean something to me about our own power. She's an engineer, and she said, in physics, power is the result of work done over time, and work is an input of energy. Power is a result of these components to move things forward, to bring light and warmth to our houses and our lives. You've had the will, Mom, capacity and competency to adapt, learn, and change, to essentially put in the energy into these facets of yourself to get yourself in a position to use it in meaningful ways, to move yourself forward and bring light, color, and warmth to your own life and the lives of others through your work.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just thought that was a beautiful way to look at power and bringing light and color and warmth into my life and into others through through my work. So
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you for sharing that and what your daughters had to say. So I'd like to take this and just turn it on its ear a little bit, turn it on its head, because we're talking about powerful women and women in power, but there's also the imposter syndrome as well that seems to haunt so many people. And I know through PEIBWA in our workshops and the cohorts that we have with our accelerator and our incubator, when I teach the art of the pitch, for instance, a lot of women, no matter what their age, how successful they are or not, still talk a lot about the imposter syndrome, where they're still, apprehensive about putting themselves forward, questioning whether or not they have the ability to accomplish something, questioning whether they are indeed powerful. So I'm wondering, Martie, Sherry, do you have any thoughts on that at all? I mean, have you ever struggled with the imposter syndrome, or do you have some words of wisdom that could help women who might struggle with something like this, because it is common?
It's probably out there. And, but honestly, I mean, maybe I'm a bit of a different bird, as they say, because powerful until, I was nominated for this great award, and thank you so much to everybody. Didn't really think about it like that. And I'm more of a person that has blinders on, and I get the fact that, you see something, you want it, you go for it. But I think honestly, for me, like, as I said, I know business people, young businessmen that are trying to get different things off the ground, and women as well. But I think it's more of a very internal thing. And I think, comparing ourselves to perhaps, and I see the equality issue in terms of pay and CEOs and all of that, because I've lived that whole journey. But I think what's really, really important is to overcome doubt. And how do you do that? How do you overcome doubt in yourself, what you're doing? And you have to surround yourself with good people, because in this life, we all have a circle of people around us. And we have people that, you feel like they're cheering for you. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are delighted with your failures, disappointed with your successes. It's true. It is so true. I have lived that journey. And people that you pull into your circle, and people that quietly undermine you. So as I have gotten older, my circle has gotten much smaller, but I surround myself with people that give me strength, that give me loyalty, that have the same dream and the same passion to go forward. And I think that, if you really stand back and look at the fence and who's inside your fence, real change comes with who is in your yard. And that is something that has been, especially maybe even over the last 5 years, because things have changed and COVID showed us some different things. So as far as being powerful and, this imposter syndrome, believe in what you do, grab what you want to do, and surround yourself with really, really good people. You don't need a lot of them. You just need a few, and they got to be on your team. And so I think that's a big thing, because every day, you can doubt yourself. It's hard. It's not easy. And, COVID has demonstrated a lot of that. So that's I don't really, when you talked about imposter syndrome, I understand what it is, but why do you have that syndrome? What drags you into that realm? Is it an equality between men and women, or is it because you have people in your circle that create doubt and, maybe you can't do this? So it's just my thoughts.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Sherry, is there something you want to share? Have you wrestled with this? Do you have words of advice about it?
Sure. I would say a lot of time when nobody is knowing ourselves better than ourselves. So a lot of time I knew what I can do, but also I know this is not something I would like to do. But we cannot just do what we like, right? So a lot of time when I put myself in another position, for example, like I'm not a very good public speaking person, so I don't like to be on the stage, where my husband is the other way. So a lot of time I know I don't want to be pushed to, but after I run my own business and a lot of time I have to, because I am in that position, and a lot of time you have to push yourself in there to do it. This is your responsibility. So I think a lot of time is we have to really know what we are good at it and what not, knowing yourself and being strong inside. I agree with what Marty just said. A lot of it is you have to surround yourself with a very good person who can inspire you. And when I look back with all the years I'm doing business here, I have a couple of really, I see them as my mentor, and they lead me and they gave me a lot of idea when I look up to them. But that gave you confidence, and that gave you support feeling, and at the same time is about failure, right? Like, I mean, when you are hesitating on doing it, not confident because you really don't know if you can take over the failure at the end with all the effort put in. But I always say I enjoy the whole journey about working hard and learning along the way. Maybe the end result is not something I expected, but that's okay. I did everything I could. Even now, I told my son is I don't want to be the top of anything, no matter sports or class. You don't have to. As long as you work hard, everything, you try your best, and that's the beauty of it. So you tried your best, and if it's not successful, that's okay. What I would think is how I can do better next time. Nobody can be perfect. Nobody can always be success. So if I can do better next time, I will be a stronger and better me. So like I said, I don't really have a lot of time. The syndrome you just said, and I think a lot of time I maybe struggle inside and saying, should I do this or not do it? And I don't feel comfortable, should I do it? But I always put myself brave enough to step up, do it, try everything I could. If it's failure, that's okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, the clock is ticking, so let's open up the conversation, to the audience who's here. So, Maureen, I know that you've been keeping your eye on the chat. Are there any questions coming from the audience, or you're still very free to put some in as well? We've got about 10 minutes. What do you have there, Maureen?
For now, we don't have any question on the chat, so I don't know if the room should have some questions for the panelists. And feel free to add your questions or.
Okay, I happen to have more questions. Today is International Women's Day, and that's why we're here, break the bias. So I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask, the panel, but also people who are in our audience as well. Is there one simple action that each one of us could make today that would help improve equality for women? Is there one simple action each of us could make today that would help improve equality for women? What do you think? Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in. I have a number of them. I first off want to congratulate all of you. I hope you are very proud of this very special accomplishment. I was doing some reflecting earlier, and some actions that I thought of that, we could really take action with immediately is amplifying women's voices, promoting inclusion, acknowledging inequities that exist, and really cultivating safer spaces, celebrating women. There's so many things that we can do every day that helps to empower women. So I think it's just so important that we do those little things, and they add up to big things every day. And when others see us doing those important things, like ensuring that women's voices are being amplified, we're leading by example by doing that, right? So it's just so important that to take advantage of those things that we can do, valuing the wisdom of women, and accepting women as they are. So often the pressure is put on us to ensure that, you know, we're fighting the good fight and we're, you know, doing all of those things, but we're enough just as we are as well. So I think it's important on International Women's Day to take a step back and just celebrate all of us for just being as we are.
Thank you. Thank you, Janine, the wonderful Janine Wooldridge, who also is you know, very articulate about this sort of thing. She has a terrific journal, daytimer now, a planner that keeps us mindful. That just came out a few months ago. I know it's very popular as well. So thank you very much for sharing that. Anybody else have a quick thought on one thing that we could do today or every day that would help promote equality? Yes, Maureen.
Right, I'll jump in. I will tell you one of the best things I ever heard, and I heard it on a PEIBWA stage. And the conversation was about, you know, breaking the glass ceiling and how women, how do you push forward and what are the challenges you face? And that was really the topic. And there were 4 people on the stage, and I can't remember the woman's name, but she was on the stage because she was involved in the gaming industry in PEI. And 3 respondents talked about, oh, the challenges and how difficult it was. And when it got to her, she just said, yeah, all of that exists. I just blow past that shit. And I thought, absolutely. Because I think it is always a mixed bag of tricks. You know, you want to blow past it. You have a little imposter syndrome. You have all these mixed messages coming. And, you know, we all feel like failures quite often just because we forgot to do pizza day at the school or something. You know, you can be as successful as you want to be, but if you screwed up lunch, you're over. You get a lot of messaging. You have internal messaging. There's a lot of external messaging that is just not appropriate. And to that point, I think we have to hear those messages. We have to listen for them, and we have to correct them. Whenever we hear them, we just speak right up and you say, no, really, that's not okay. I also am a big fan of finding your champions. And if your circle's small and it's a great circle, I'm with you, Marty. Find your people, keep them close. And if they start being naysayers, move them on. You know, and we often get told to dial it down. You're too big for the room. You're too much. You're too powerful. You're too pushy. You're too, all those things. Again, find a space where you can be exactly as Cathy said, be as big as you absolutely can be. Find a space where you can be big. And if you have to secretly give yourself a pep talk, it's okay. I have a picture of my 98-pound grandmother at the bottom of my stairs. And I just think about what a powerful woman she was and the courage it took for her every day of her life. And anytime I need courage, I just look at her and say, look at that little powerhouse. I can do this stuff. So I think my advice is you have it all inside you. Don't let anyone dial it down. And if you hear stuff that is not speaking to empowering women all around you or anybody all around you, just don't tolerate it.
Thank you, Maureen. Passionately said. Okay, one more person. Someone else want to get into the conversation and just talk about one simple action each of us could do today to help improve equality? Anybody else?
I have one last thought, if you can still hear me.
Yes.
So today, one of my friends who had a very successful business in Montreal was celebrating the day, and she sent me this. It's kind of a quote, but William Golding that wrote Lord of the Flies. It's maybe before his time. He's a novelist and whatever, but he said, I think women are foolish to pretend they are equal to men. They are far superior and always have been. Whatever you give a woman, she will make it greater. If you give her sperm, she'll give you a baby. If you give her a house, she'll give you a home. If you give her groceries, she'll make you a meal. If you give her a smile, she'll give you your heart. She multiplies and enlarges what is given to her. And I just wonder who else besides us today could ever do that. We're the only people that can do that. So you got to find your inner and you just run hard at it. You don't let anybody take that away from you. And every day is a good day. I mean, it's hard days and some days you win, but nobody, that is such a strength and such a, it hit today, with my daughter having a baby and business and everything. And it's just, we're amazing, all of us, and what we possess and what we can do with our lives and our passion and our dreams. And don't let anybody knock you off the path.
Thank you for that, Marty. Again, passionately stated. I wish we had more time. The time has the hour has flown by. I wanted to extend a sincere thank you to Dawn Chafe and our panelists and fellow award winners, Sherry Huang, Martie Murphy, and Cathy Rose. We really appreciate the time and the thought and the passion that you brought to the conversation today. Our organization, PEIBWA, exists so that events like this can convene women in business across the island today and throughout the year. I also wanted to share some news with you. They finally told me that I could let this out of the bag. The Interministerial Women's Secretariat, which has been so supportive of so many women's organizations across the province, is announcing today, grants that are being given. PEIBWA has received one grant. There are other organizations that are benefiting from that as well. But we're excited because we are receiving a grant that will allow us to create a pitch competition for island business women with a prize of $15,000. And to the best of our knowledge, this is the first time, this has been done just for women on the island to promote themselves. And it will include opportunities to network, to develop confidence, to develop speaking skills, as well as guidance as to how to interact with potential investors as well. So watch out for more details in the near future as we roll this program out. We're also very busy opening a third location in Montague. I think that will make you happy, Maureen. Yay. To better serve the women of Kings County. And we're also opening a new dedicated accelerator and incubator space at the Rural Women's Business Center as well. It will offer extended hours, develop networks of support that are critical to women's business success. And it's also the first designated space of its kind created for business women in Prince Edward Island. So we're excited about that. We're a member-based not-for-profit organization with a mandate to educate, empower, and inspire PEI women to succeed in their business endeavors. We're the only women's business association with an island-wide mandate in this province, which we take very seriously. We're very proud of our membership of some 550 women entrepreneurs and business professionals, and I'm delighted to see so many of them here with us today. I wanted to suggest that you help promote International Women's Day. I'm sure a lot of you are doing that already. Maureen has been busy putting links in the chat right now. So if you want to take a moment to share your thoughts and ideas on today's Break the Bias theme on your own social media channels, that would be terrific. If you do, please include the hashtag IWD PEI so that the rest of the world can hear what's on the minds of island women. So good afternoon, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks again, Dawn, for these amazing awards. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn.
Very well deserved.